file only. If you want to install any package or the module, you just need to say npm install and the module name. This will be installing the module or the package for the current project only. If you want, or if you know that this package is something which I require for most of my projects, I don't want it to be downloaded from node repository every time. In that case, I can use that global flag -g. So that will install it on the machine in the shared location, and from where for every project a copy will be created. So that will actually save my time. Especially on the low bandwidth machines, it will be useful. Got it? Using different modules will require the objects to be created. So here when I say var HTTP equals to, var HTTP says it's an object, equals to require HTTP means it will automatically find the module HTTP, and from there the HTTP class instance will be created and will be assigned to this object. Same way, FS for file system and Express for Express.js, which is an extension framework for Node to enable us to create the RESTful services pretty quickly and easily. Not a mandatory one though, but yes, it makes the RESTful service development pretty easy and straightforward. Okay. Now, in Node.js, what all services you get with JavaScript? This is the complete list of the features that you are getting. In addition to basic JavaScript features, you do have the access to events, file system, HTTP client, modules, networking, streaming. All these features, it's a standard JavaScript only, but no support for DOM manipulation because Node.js is a server environment, and on server there is no DOM. DOM is available within the browser context only. So it will be only for the client. Otherwise, the complete JavaScript features are there as it is. Understood?
Yes.
So these are some of the other modules which you can integrate. Express, and like Express, we do have Koa, Sales, Happy, Restify, etc. for different kind of services to be developed. Express mainly, I said, is for enabling us to create RESTful services easily. Restify is a similar framework, but usually Express is used the most because it is developed by the same team which developed Node.js. Okay, so more compatible. Then you have socket.io for socket programming, Passport for credential management. Then there are some logger services provided by some frameworks like Winston, Bunyan. Then there are some other tools like Async, Q, Lodash, Moment, Cheerio, all additional tools. Then some testing modules are also there like Nightwatch, Supertest, Mocha, Jasmine, Cinnamon, Chai. These are all JavaScript testing frameworks. Mostly Mocha, Jasmine, these are heavily used. Karma is another one. Right? So as I said, these are the most used modules or favorite modules. Express, underscore, request, async, MySQL. MySQL typically used with MySQL being used as a backend database. And you can actually find it on npmjs.org website also. Okay. The extensive list will be there. So to work with Node.js, what all IDEs are there? You have some online IDEs like Cloud9. You don't need any installation in that case. Directly on the web portal itself, you can create your Node.js applications. Eclipse can be used with Node.js plugins installed. Visual Studio, regular Visual Studio can be used as well with Node.js toolkit or plugins extensions installed. Visual Studio Code can directly be used without any extensions needed. JetBrains WebStorm is another IDE which can be used. And then there are others also like WebMatrix, CodeRunner, Expresso, Atom, which have been used in the past a lot. And now we have better options available. So there is less focus on these older options. People use mostly Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, Eclipse. These are the highly used ones, right? To find more information about Express, you have expressjs.com. It contains the module also, and it contains all the documentation as well to work with Express.js, using which you can build your powerful REST services easily. Right? So very powerful web application framework for Node to develop web services based on REST pattern. Now, like .NET Core, we do have middleware concept for Node also. And typically Express is actually configured as a middleware only. So it sits between your request and the actual code. So provides you the routing and everything, right? The middleware itself can execute any code, make changes to the incoming request, make changes to the outgoing response. It can end the request response cycle also. And if required, it can call the next middleware in the stack as well, just like the .NET Core middleware concept, right? Here are some of the middleware modules provided by Express for different kind of work. Morgan for HTTP request logging. Express.static for serving the static content from the public directory into your project, like JS, files, CSS, HTML, images, videos, audios, etc. Then there is body parser for parsing the request body and then populate the request.body object. Then cookie parser for handling cookies. Cookie session, basically to provide the guest sessions. If user is not authenticated, this is important. Then express session, this will be like the state management on the server side if required. If you want some state to be maintained for that particular connection. Then method override is there, which allows you to use HTTP verbs like put or delete in places where the client does not support it. Your browser, your client environment may not have support for these advanced HTTP verbs. If older version is there, we had support for get and post only earlier. So in such cases, method override module can be used to allow you using put and delete as well, even if they are not supported. Then there is CSOF, which is for cross-site request forgery protection. And that's the middleware component again for Express, right? So request originating from one domain to another, and probably someone is impersonating that. To prevent that, we need this. This is a security feature. Okay, so some details about Express. It has got its inspiration from another older JavaScript framework called as Sinatra. Quite fast, flexible, and pretty simple one to use, just like .NET Web APIs. Stable release. Again, this may not be the correct one because the slide I created at a very in fact somewhere around 7 years back, so the version is not updated. You can actually check expressjs.org for the latest stable release, right? So just make sure that you have gone through this before you decide that I'll be using Express. These are some of the warnings, but again, some of these warnings might have been already overcome by now with the current releases, right? So any questions here? That was entirely the conceptual part, right? Any questions?
So like for the complex applications also they are using Node.js as a server side.
Very resource intensive complex applications, Node.js actually is not recommended because you require more amount of resources there. The Node.js framework is not equipped with that. You have to go for the stable frameworks, more robust frameworks like Java or .NET for that, as we discussed within the presentation itself, right?
Yes. So kind of storing and retrieving we can use this.
Yes, I mean, simple application to mid-level complexity applications, you can use Node.js without any issues, right? Mainly for storing and retrieving, as you said, that is the case. And again, even if some processing is required, that should not be used. Like if you're looking to use Node.js for building some application that does lots of data analytics, Node.js is not the right thing for it. Understand? Yeah, if it is being used as a intermediate application interface, which talks to some backend service that is giving you the pre-prepared analytics data, which Node.js application is responsible only to display, then it's fine. But if analytics code is running within the application, Node.js is not the right choice. Clear?
Yes. So in some of the presentations you mentioned like LinkedIn, some
Yes.
so
But there also, there is no complex logic as such, right? It's mostly read and write operation only. Like what post I'm giving, that is something like write operation. While reading, whatever the posts are there, around 10 or 15 posts are retrieved at a time. And then basically the adaptive implementation is there. So on scroll event of the browser, we keep on adding more and more responses. I mean, the older post to our content, right? So that's not
yes.
a very complex one as such. I mean,
Okay.
if you break down the functionality, each piece of the functionality is not very complex. Overall, LinkedIn is very complex, but the kind of work being done is not very complex, right? It's not providing any analytics as such. It's not doing any huge data processing. It is just read write operation, right?
Yes.
Decision making is very less in that. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move forward. We have the main configured as index.js. So what that means is I can easily create a new file here with the name index.js. And let's say for simplicity to start with, I just want console.log statement to be used to show hello world. Typical first program, right? This is JavaScript only, so I can just use typical JavaScript statements. Save. Now the question is, how do I get this processed? How do I see the output? For that, I go back to command line, or else you can use the built-in command line of the VS Code, basically the terminal window. So whatever you are comfortable with, I usually prefer command prompt to be used so that I can just have more screen space for my code here in VS Code. I just need to issue the command node and then the name of the file. Let's say index.js. And there I get the output. Any questions? I want this to be done in the RESTful manner also. So I want to make use of the Express.js here. So for that, I need to say npm install. I can also use I for install Express, the name of the package. If I want to install Express globally on the machine, I can use the flag -g, npm space I space -g space Express. Without -g, it will be installed only for this project. Where? If I use dir command now, you can see there is a folder called as node modules. Under this, the package must have been downloaded, which we can see easily in VS Code. Here I have node modules, big folder in itself. Somewhere here I can see Express, lib, and all Express stuff is there. Express itself and all of its dependency objects. It's middleware components also, right? Then if I go to package.json now, do you see any difference from the earlier one? This is additional, right? There will be two sections, dependencies and dev dependencies at most of the time. Dependencies are those dependencies which are required at development as well as production time. Dev dependencies are those dependencies which are required only for the development. Post deployment, we don't require those dependencies. So those dependencies are put in dev dependencies. Understand? Mostly the tooling is not required post deployment in production. Those are required during development only. So those tooling related packages and modules you will find in dev dependencies. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's close this. Let's comment this out. I'll just push it downwards. And here I want to import the Express.js framework first. So I say const. I don't want this to be changeable, so I'm making it const. If I say var, it can be replaced with something else, right? Here I say require. Express. It will automatically read Express.js and will create the instance of it, which will be pointed to by Express constant. And I say const.
How it will
app.
pick the path?
It by default looks into node modules only by this name. So this is a default directory. And here you see the folder Express is there. Okay, so mostly it is based on the conventions. If you're following the conventions rightly, there is no problem. You don't need to provide the path explicitly. Okay.
Okay.
And convention-based coding usually makes the coding easy. Yes. Now what this statement will do, const app express. This will create Express application. I mean, it will instantiate Express ideally for this application being represented as Express application. Where Express application is another type of node application only. Now I need to define a route to receive the request. Just like in web APIs, we do that. So here I say app dot. There is a route for the get request I am creating. The route says that it should be at the root of the website only. So say slash, comma. There are two parameters which will be taken care of by this callback function, request and response, REQ and RES, representing request response. and there goes the callback function. Just like lambda functions. We don't use the term lambda here. We call it as arrow functions in JavaScript. But technically, it is the same thing as lambdas only. Here I say response object dot send. What I want to send is hello world. Single quotes, double quotes can be used interchangeably with each other. That's the typical JavaScript behavior, right? Okay. Now, here I need to configure the server as well, isn't it? Where the request will come. So here I say there is another constant named as port, some port number. Let's say I put it as 9999. Some port number that you know is not being used on your machine should be put here. And then I say the app listens on this port. App.listen on this port. So I say port, comma. What it does actually there. So here I say there is a callback function again, arrow function without parameters. So empty parenthesis, arrow, and the function body, which I arrange like this. And here I say console.log server is running on http://localhost : $. Is used for the string interpolation. Curly brace port. It actually reads the value of port here and displays it. If I don't put $ and curly brace, the port word will be displayed. I don't want that. I want this value to be displayed. And to make this work, actually, I don't need to use single or double quotes. I have to use backticks. Otherwise, the string interpolation won't work. You can see the moment I've replaced quotes with backticks, this color has changed. It knows that it's a variable whose value needs to be replaced against this $ curly brace port. Backticks available with the same key, which gives you tilde, right?
So what's the term?
Sorry?
What is the term?
Backticks. Back, B-A-C-K, back, ticks, T-I-C-K-S.
Backticks.
Yeah. Quotes will be the regular quotes, right? So here we say it is backtick. And it's always in pair, so we say backticks. Understand?
So here you are listening to this
Request.
express. You are okay.
Yeah, with Express, I'm listening to a web request. Understand?
Where is the web request here?
That will be initiated from the browser. And that request I'm capturing over here and then sending the response. So whenever the request comes on this http://localhost:9999, it will be handled by this. It has to be a GET request. If I replace GET with POST, then it has to be a POST request.
Sorry,
Understood?
I missed in bit. Yeah, this I understood. Sorry, I missed in between. This end node modules have been generated along with the
moment we install the
right?
Express package.
Yes. Okay.
Which we did using this command, npm
Right.
install express.
Okay. Thank you.
So automatically node modules come in, right?
Yeah.
Save this. and then go back to command line and say node